All right, I'm going to talk about the trip that it took us to get to France, which is what John was talking about earlier. It basically started out not at last year's missions conference, but the mission conference before. I was sitting in church and I had this idea that I'm in college and the friends that I had were in college, and that we can go out and we can put a trip together and take a step of obedience and a step of faith and do something with it. And that's really all it was. A couple of weeks later, I hadn't really done anything with that. I'd talked to a couple people, but God got me out of bed like 6 hours earlier than I would normally want to, which is definitely against my own nature. And for whatever reason, I got into contact with the missions organization. I had looked at the CMA and didn't find a lot of short, like 2-week trips that we would be able to take. And so I started talking to Greater Europe Missions, and through that, I really couldn't tell you at the time that God was speaking to me. It was just I woke up and that's what I was supposed to do. And they started emailing me very, very faithfully and getting me to put this sort of thing together. So I kind of took this vague idea of let's do something and started emailing people. I think I invited like 40 people to a group on Facebook, and then 20 people said, yeah, that'd be really cool. And it was really tiny little steps along the way that God was kind of pushing. And then very quickly, 20 turned into 12, which was good. It was a good, strong group, and we started to talk about this and things that we wanted to do. And by that time, we had gotten an idea of what trips were available to us, what things we were going to do, and it was going to be construction, which was a surprise to me because that's not really where I was going for. That's not really something that I am skilled at or tend to enjoy, but God was taking this momentum that we were kind of starting to push forward and adjusting along the way and pushing us on the path that he wanted us to be. And so as we were looking for the trip through the list of things, we saw one that was for College Daniel in France, and I had known a little bit about France and I knew it was a dark place and didn't feel a strong call for there, but I was like, oh, a college, like we as college students can go invest in fellow college students. And we thought, oh, that would be a really cool thing for us to do. So we kind of moved forward on that. And then, I don't know, 6 months before we were about to leave, our group of 12 dropped down to 5 really, really quickly. And we figured out that we needed 7 people to go. So we didn't have enough people to go, and we didn't have any money at that point. We started to meet and discuss finances and what we were going to do, and we as college students thought, hey, let's do medical trials or clinical trials. And so we thought if we each do 2 clinical trials, we'll have paid for the whole trip. It'll be about, $2,000 to $2,500 depending on what we get. And so we're like, all right, perfect. This is good. We've got it down. And that's not what happened. None of us actually got any. I had the opportunity to do one that was like would have given me $4,000, and I was like, oh yeah, perfect. But I would have been dropped from every class at Biola because I would have missed my first 2 weeks of school, and I was like, well, I can't really do that. So as we took this, excitement we had and passion we had to move forward, we kind of were. Every time we started to err, God would take that and push it forward because we were stepping forward in faith and in obedience. And it was a really exciting thing. And then it was 5 months before, and we still had 5 members on our team that needed 7. We had no money. I think we had each spent $100 to get to pay for our deposit, and we had a fundraiser that raised like $100 or $200. So we had a little bit going on, but we didn't really know what to do. And at that point was the next missions conference, and if you guys remember, the David Warner, I think was how you say his last name, came and he spoke at college group, and Carrie at this point had decided to have the college group back us on this because it ended up being mostly college group people that were going. And so we announced it, and David came up to Scott afterwards and said, like, hey, your kids that are going to France, how about you have them give your money to me because we're building this building, and have them not go. And Scott told me that, and I was first taken aback and offended at that, and my offense at that was enough for me to realize that I needed to check my own motives, because this was a guy who's excited about what he's doing, excited about the ways that God is ministering to him, and it would have been a good thing. And so at that point I knew that it wasn't, I need to see, is it really that we want to serve, or is it that we want to go to France, or how is this working out? And so that was a Friday night, and over the next 2 days I had about 40 interactions with people that I trusted, and a lot of those were you guys. I talked to my team, asked them to prayerfully look at this and go through what we were supposed to do. Should we put the money together and invest in this ministry, or put the money together and go to France? And I can't say that it was any one conversation, any one thing that God just spoke to me and said, all right, you guys are going. But through all those interactions, they weren't all the same. We had some people saying give, some people saying go, and but through all those things, it was confirmed in me that we were going to go, and that's what God had called us to do. And as soon as I made that decision, I realized that we didn't have any money to give them anyways, and so it was a good confirmation there. But after that, it was God had really clarified that his will was for us to go, and we're like, all right, like, now what, God? We don't have a team, we don't have enough people to go, we don't have any money. We didn't want to let the organization down and tell them super late that, okay, at the last minute, yeah, sorry, we didn't get it together, we can't go. But we also didn't want to be unfaithful and tell them ahead of time, like, oh, we're not sure this is going to happen, because God had told us it was going to happen. And so the college group at a retreat prayed for us and prayed over us, and it was incredible as these things happened. In the last few months, we needed 2 people, and God sent us 4 in different ways in each person. Some of it was definitely a God thing. Everything is a God thing. But in sort of miraculous ways, he provided people for us to go. And then he provided finances for us. We sent out letters. I sent out like 60 support letters. I think as a whole we sent out about close to 100. And through those letters, not only were we able to get money coming in, we were able to let other people know, this is what's going on. We want this to be our whole church thing, that we are all Christians. We are all going. We want you to back us. And we went door to door and talked to about 1,000 people at Biola, and got loose change, whatever they had. But we also had hundreds of people that we got to talk to and tell and let them know what we're doing and get a little bit of their advice. And God brought the money together at the last minute. We each spent a lot of money. We pretty much all bought our plane tickets by ourselves. But by the time that we left for France, we were the tip of a spear of a very powerful force that was all of you guys, all of the church, all the people in our lives, and so many people at Biola. It wasn't 7, or we had 9 people at that time. It wasn't 9 people going to France to go build something. It was a large group of people moving forward to invest in the church overseas. And a couple weeks before we went, I got an email, and I don't know if I signed up for their email list, because I've never received another email from them, but from the Warners, that said that they had gotten the money that they needed to build the church that they had done, or buy the land. And it was such a confirmation. It's like, okay, God, thank you. We didn't know that at the time. We didn't know that when we had to think about it, but God was confirming his will. And then we went to France, and as John said, it was an incredible thing for him and for each of us, and we got to encourage the people there and build friendships that I can't say that, we may never see the people in France again, but they'll be our forever friends in heaven. And we got to invest in them and encourage them and build them a school that will enable them to train kids. Oh, and another thing is we realized it wasn't actually a college, it was an elementary school. And I was like, oh, okay, well, God is using that to kind of direct us into a different way. And so instead of it being an only college thing, it turned into a very multi-generational thing, because we had adults that were investing in college students to invest in little kids in their education. And it was really an amazing time for God to be speaking to us. And the last night we were there, we found out that the money that they would have had to pay for us to build that would have been about $10,000 more than we actually had to make to go over there. So again, it was such a confirmation that we weren't wasting our money, because half of what we spent went to buying plane tickets. And afterwards, we all decided that we had some money left over. We had about $1,000 that we could have divided among ourselves to reimburse us a little bit for the plane tickets, and we all decided to give that to Sarah Davis, and so we were able to give her about $1,200 to move forward and continue to invest in a different ministry. And so through all of these things, God really confirmed that if we're willing to move forward and take a step in faith, if we're wrong, he'll correct us. We went with the idea that we're going to do a lot of evangelism, and that's not what God had for us, and it was good, and he directed us, and it was so clear that it was his path, because we were willing to move forward with something else, and he moved us. And so when I look at this, when we're called to be holy, God has done so much in our lives, and all it takes is, this passage mentions several times, obedience. If we take steps forward in faith, God will bless it. He might not bless it by giving us, by making our plans exactly how we thought it would be, and so that it would turn well, but he'll bless us in ways that he will confirm his will, show us his will, and bring us to the place where we need to be. So that's what I learned, and you guys helped us learn that, so thank you.